If you feel like you're slacking in your homeschool, you probably aren't. Here is your reminder.
A common concern of homeschool families is, are my kids learning enough? Do I need to spend even more money and time and effort on curriculum and other items to make my homeschool better?
When homeschool parents start asking themselves these kinds of things, it's really good to go back to basics and remember that
Learning happens everywhere.
So let's discuss a few ways that learning happens everywhere. One way is field trips. Obviously they can be academic, but they can also just, be fun. I mean, they don't have to just be strictly educational, would you say?
I totally agree. And I think field trips, especially for homeschoolers, not to say that homeschoolers don't get socialization, but when you're doing all of these extra field trips and activities, it really just gives you and your kids a chance to get out of the house and not be right next to each other the whole time.
It's also kind of nice when there's like if you're going to a museum, like a docent or someone kind of giving us some sort of tour guide, because then you're not the ones having to teach your kids all the time. Field trips can be really anything. I mean, it could be going to a park, but more detailed ones could be going to a nature center, going to a museum, going to any sort of like historical landmark. And so obviously these are educational. Your kids are learning so many life skills just being out in public, obviously. And then they're learning something, academically connected as well.
Yeah, and another thing to point out is that when you're going on these field trips, you're actually gonna go out onto a hike and be able to go and see this tree or this flower. And that is gonna resonate so much more with them than if they were to just read it from a textbook. So besides field trips, Jenny, where else are our children learning?
Well, another really cool way that kids can learn everywhere is while running errands. I love taking my kids to run errands, and they actually really like it, typically. So these teach, you can teach them manners, you can teach them respect, patience, but also there's like the functional skills that they can learn. So reading, math skills at the grocery store. I mean, my kids love to read street signs right now because we're in the car a lot. Mm-hmm. So just basic skills like that really do actually connect back to school. All right, Stacey, where's another place that our children can learn?
Right here at home. I think so many people underestimate the amount of learning that children do at home. I mean, I love cooking in the kitchen. Well, I say I love it because I love the learning that happens, but sometimes it takes a lot longer to have them help. But if you do have them help, they're learning math, they're learning how to measure, they're learning how, just basic life skills, how to cook. So that's really, really awesome. What are some other ways they can learn at home, Jenny?
Nature study in your own backyard.
Yes.
Some people are concerned that they cannot do nature study because they live in an apartment or a house with a small yard, but really nature study is so flexible. It can be done anywhere. So that's a big thing that you can do just for science, and your kids can observe what they see, write it or draw it in their nature notebook, and then you can look it up and kind of look up the specific details about what they saw. So that's always a really easy way to just incorporate easy science into your homeschool. Another thing that I think we've talked about before is being exposed to different kinds of people. So having guests over or going to a friend or family member's house. This kind of shows different people to interact with and socialize with. And they can get used to seeing how other people are, what they're like, and learning from these other people.
Yeah, and even seeing the different routines and schedules that other families have, I think is really eye-opening to children, because they know what your household runs like. But if they go over to somebody else and they may have dinner at a different time, or they may have more rules or things like that in their house that maybe you don't implement it in your home. So just getting them to know that different families run differently, and that is something that they can learn and be able to adjust. One thing we really wanted to address in this video is that kids are learning all the time, even if you're going through some sort of transition in your family.
Yeah, so this could be, health problems with anyone in the family. This could be a new baby. This could be a move. I mean, these are things that we've both dealt with in our homeschools, and it can be really hard. It feels like you're not doing enough, like you've really been slacking on homeschool. Oh, my kids only got through one page of curriculum in a whole month. It's that kind of thing, but you really need to take it easy on yourself and don't stress too much about this because your kids are still learning.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, we've both been there. There are gonna be times where you are doing so much homeschooling and you're doing so many activities and all of this, and then there are gonna be times like, for us personally, when I sprained my ankle, I couldn't move around like I normally could. So it was like all of my energy just to like feed my children and make sure they were happy.
But you know, like during that time, would you say maybe your kids learned how to be a little more self-sufficient?
Definitely.
Like learning how to do things around the house to help you, right?
Yeah, they were younger at that time. So, you know, they had to go get me stuff. And so they were learning kind of where things were in the house. But we weren't quite doing our regular homeschool routine. And for that short period of time until I got better, that works. And so don't beat yourself up if you're going through some weird transition and you're not doing everything exactly the way that you normally do, because this time will pass and you'll be able to move on.
Yeah, so in this time, you know, I suggest making lessons really short, maybe doing lessons a little less frequently. Don't try to stick to your usual routine. If there's something crazy going on, like really you gotta just know when to kind of take it easy on your homeschool, and that's totally fine. Another thing is, like, for my husband and I right now, we're both having to work, and so what we try to do is incorporate our kids into our work as much as possible. So taking them to meetings if we can, or taking them to run errands, you know, anything that they can be exposed to new situations and learn how to be patient and kind and respectful. It's not like you're slacking on your homeschool, you're still teaching them things. And then another thing that I did want to talk about with your health issues, you know, when you sprain your ankle, is kind of like how kids can cope with frustration, because that might have been potentially frustrating for them, you know, or dealing with a new baby. I had a baby, I gave birth like a week before I started homeschooling for the first time, so that was a little bit much. But I think, you know, it's good to teach kids how to cope with potentially being in a frustrating situation that might be upsetting or different for them. And I think those are just important skills that anyone should know.
Yeah, being able for them to see you modeling what to do in tough times is going to teach them so much more than anything from one of your homeschool curriculums. So definitely just take it down a notch, take care of what you need to, and then you can move on.
I think at the end of the day, what we want you to take away from this video is please go easy on yourself. Don't beat yourself up if you're changing things up. Let go of perfect. And don't underestimate the power of learning happens everywhere. Do your kids like running errands with you? If so, which ones are their favorites? Let us know in the comments below.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to get more homeschool content just like this.
See you next time!